Let me ask you a question. How do you sell something you can't actually prove works? Well, it's simple. You just make it impossible to prove it doesn't.
I mean, seriously, how does an entire industry rake in billions of dollars from products where the effects are, by their very design, completely impossible to measure? It sounds like a paradox, right? But it's not. It's a playbook, and we're going to walk through it right now. So, at the very heart of this whole thing is a philosophy you could call the unmeasurable business model. And it's not built on results you can see or feel. Oh no. It's built on a carefully, and I mean carefully, engineered state of mind. And it all boils down to three, let's be honest, pretty cynical rules. Rule number one, never ever prove that your product is effective. See, these supplements, they aren't regulated like medicine, so you don't actually have to. Rule two, create this constant, low-level hum of anxiety about what might happen if you stop taking it. And the third rule, this is the big one, make the results completely and utterly unmeasurable. Now, this model doesn't just work on anybody. It's actually precision engineered for a very specific type of person, someone whose own good intentions, believe it or not, make them the perfect customer.
So who are we talking about? Well, the sweet spot is usually someone between 40 and 60. Maybe they just had a checkup, got a minor warning, and the doctor says that famous phrase, "Let's just watch and wait." That phrase right there, it's a breeding ground for anxiety. And look, these aren't uninformed people. They're the opposite. They're proactive. They go online. They do their research. They might be a little skeptical of big pharma, but the thought of just sitting there and doing nothing, that's even scarier.
And here's the real kicker, the central irony of this whole thing. The main targets aren't the uninformed. They're the people who care the most about their health. They're the ones putting in the time, trying to do the right thing. Their own diligence is actually turned against them.
So, we get the psychology, but how does that turn into billions with a B? Well, to understand that, we just have to follow the money and see what you're really paying for when you buy this stuff. So let's take your typical $100 bottle of supplements. You'd think most of that $100 goes into the ingredients, the manufacturing, right? Not even close. Often that stuff only makes up about 20% of the price. The other 80%? Yeah, that's pretty much all overhead and pure profit. In fact, the average gross profit margin in this industry can get as high as 75%. Think about that. That is an enormous margin. And frankly, it's essential. It's the fuel that funds the rest of this whole business model.
So where does all that profit actually go? This is the most crucial part. A massive chunk of it, sometimes close to half, gets plowed right back into advertising to find the next customer. So get this, you're not paying for a premium product. You're paying for the marketing that was used to convince you to buy it in the first place. This entire business model, the whole shebang, is only possible because of one thing, a massive and totally intentional gap in knowledge between the seller and you, the buyer. This gap, this information asymmetry, is the engine that makes the whole machine run. Just think about the two completely different realities here. On one side, you have the seller. They operate with total clarity. They cook up these vague, scientific-sounding claims and make absolutely sure there's no way to measure if it works. But on the other side, you've got the buyer, who's left with nothing but questions. You can't quantify the effect, you can't prove it's not a placebo, and that gap, that deep fog of uncertainty, that's exactly where the profit is made. So, this abstract business model has a very real, very concrete, and frankly, super frustrating consequence for customers. It's what's known as the subscription trap. And it's designed to be incredibly easy to get into and almost impossible to get out of. It all starts with something that looks super tempting, right? A trial offer, maybe just $10 for the first month. But that's not the real price. No, if you look at the fine print, you're often locked into a minimum subscription for, say, 3 to 6 months. That means the real minimum cost you just signed up for is hundreds of dollars. And by the time you realize it, you're already on the hook. And trying to get out of it, oh, that is a whole other nightmare. It's a gauntlet, an obstacle course specifically designed to make you give up. First, you find out you can only cancel by phone, and of course, only during very limited weekday hours. Then you have to sit through forever on hold. And when you finally get a human, it's a sales agent whose only job is to pressure you to stay. They might even challenge you to prove the product isn't working for you, which, as we know, is impossible by design. Okay, so with a model this sophisticated, how in the world do you protect yourself? How do you see through all the marketing haze? Well, it actually comes down to asking a few very, very simple questions. The key is to just completely ignore all the pseudoscientific claims and the fancy ingredient lists. Instead, just ask these 3 questions. 1. Is there a clear, objective way for me to measure if this is working? 2. Can the company tell me exactly what measurable, negative thing will happen if I stop taking it? And 3. Is it super easy to cancel? If the answers are no, I don't know, and yes, it's a huge pain, then you're not really buying a health product. You're just buying into an unmeasurable business. Because in the end, this isn't about fooling people who don't know any better. This model thrives precisely because it targets our good intentions. The real victims here aren't ignorant or foolish. They are just ordinary people. People who were simply trying their absolute best to take care of their health. And that really is the most important thing to remember.